so we're continuing the worksheet on vertical motion. In the last lesson, we discussed question 1 and question 8 of this worksheet because they were similar questions. Now let's do 2, 3, 4, and 5 today. Okay, particle P1 is projected vertically upward from the horizontal ground with the speed 30 meters per second. Okay, let's draw this. So there's a ground and there's a particle P1 which is projected upwards. So I'm going to make double arrows indicating upward movement. And its initial speed is 30 meters per second. That means U is 30 meters per second. At the same instant, another particle P2 is projected vertically upwards from the top of a tower of height 25 meters. Okay, so there's a tower whose height is 25 meters. And the second particle, P2, is projected from here. With speed 10 meters per second. So U for this particle is 10. Okay, find the time for which the particle P1 is higher than the top of the tower. Okay, so this particle goes up. You have to find the time for which it is higher than the tower. So that means the time from here to here. You have to find the time when it is higher than the tower, time for which it is higher than the tower. Okay, so that means we have to find the time for which the distance is greater than 25. So we start part 1 like this. Distance traveled by P1 should be greater than 25 meters. Okay, so now we're going to use equations of motion to replace S with the known parameters. What are the known parameters in this upward movement other than 30? We know U is 30. What else do we know? It's a free fall movement. There's no resistance. What is that telling us? We know one more parameter of this motion. Acceleration. We know the acceleration. What is going to be the acceleration? जब ऑब्जेक्ट ऊपर जाता है इन फ्री फॉल तो फिर उसकी एक्सेलरेशन क्या होती है? नहीं, जीरो तो नहीं होती. देखो ऑब्जेक्ट मूव कर रहा है, एक्सेलरेशन जीरो कैसे हो सकती है?
सॉरी मिस, आई थॉट यू मेंट इक्विलिब्रियम में आ गया.
नहीं नहीं नहीं, ऊपर जा रहा है ऑब्जेक्ट, ग्रेविटी के अगेंस्ट जा रहा है.
मिस 10 होगी फिर शायद.
हाँ, लेकिन -10 क्योंकि अगेंस्ट द ग्रेविटी जा रहा है ना. आहिस्ता आहिस्ता उसकी स्पीड कम हो रही है तो डीसेलरेट कर रहा है. So -10. So in this part of the journey, acceleration is going to be -10 upwards. Okay, so which formula of equation of motion should I use here so that I get T? This is S. So change S into UT plus half AT square. UT plus half AT square, because we know what U is, we know what A is, and we can find time. So it's going to be 30T plus half minus 10T square greater than 25. So 30T minus 5T square greater than 25. So it's going to be, I'm going to move everything to the other side. So 5T square minus 30t plus 25. Also, I'm going to write the quadratic expression first, divide 5 on both sides. So writing this first, t square minus 60 plus 5 is less than 0. Just one of you needs to mute. Okay. Acha, so now this is a quadratic inequality. We know how to solve it. First, treat it as a simple quadratic equation. Do middle term breaking. T square minus 5t minus t plus 5 greater than 0. I've done middle term breaking. T common, t minus 5 minus 1 common, t minus 5. In fact, equated to 0 because we're finding the critical values first. So t minus 1, t minus 5 equals 0. So we're getting t equals 1 or t equals 5. But the question is an inequality. So the final answer needs to be written as an inequality 2. What would be the answer in terms of inequality? Nobody remembers this from P1. बहुत डिटेल में सबको कराया था जब हम P1 कर रहे थे. You plot the critical values. It's 1 and 5. Then draw the quadratic equation. The value is less than 0. Quadratic equation is less than 0. That means we're talking about this region. What are the values of t in this region? Aisha,
T is less. T is less than 5 and greater than 1.
yes, t is between 1 and 5. So greater than 1 and less than 5. This is the answer. But is it asking for a range of values or exactly the time? Find the time for which P1 is higher than the top of the tower. So it's higher between 1 second to 5 seconds. So 5 minus 1 is equals to 4 seconds. So for 4 seconds, the particle P1 is at a height greater than 25. So whenever it says greater than this distance, less than this distance, use inequalities and then solve the quadratic inequality. अच्छा जी, अगर ये होता greater than 0, then how would have our answer changed?
मैम हमारे 1 and greater than 5 हो जाता है.
If it were greater than 0, then we had to include this region where t is greater than 5 and this region where t is less than 1. So then our answer would have been t greater than 5, t less than 1. Anyway. Acha ji, next part of the question. The answer for this part is 4 seconds. कोई question है तो पूछो please. To solve these questions, you need to know the equations of motion very well. You need to know the dynamics of vertical motion, that when it's going upwards, A is minus 10. When it's going downwards, A is 10. And at the maximum height, the final velocity is 0. So V is equals to 0 at the maximum height. Then you need to know forward force minus backward force is equals to mv. We've discussed all of these in great details in the previous lessons. Okay. Part 2, the velocities of the particle at the instant when the particles are at the same height. So when the two particles are at the same height, what should be the velocity of each particle? So let's see. Okay, so now we have to find the velocity at which both particles are at the same height. So let's say some point over here, both particles are at the same height. So this one reaches here and this one reaches here. At this instant, the heights are equal and you have to find the velocities of both the particles at this instant. So that means you have to find V here for this movement and V here for this movement. Okay. Also, we know for the second motion that A is also minus 10 because this is also going upwards. Okay, so now it says that the particles are at the same height. So the equation you start with is that the distance covered by P1 should be equals to distance covered by P2 plus 25. Why did I add 25 here? Where did this plus 25 come from?
And tower height.
हाँ, tower height हमें क्यों चाहिए? Because you're saying that this height, this distance is equals to, you can't say that this distance is equals to this distance. So saying that distance covered by P1 is equals to distance covered by P2 is not correct. Because distance covered by P2 is just this much. There's also a 25-meter long tower underneath it. So you need to add that as well so that both the sides of the equation have the same value. So this length is equals to this length. So that's why you have to add 25 to this distance covered by P2. Okay, so plus 25 with it. Now use the same formula, ut plus half at square. S is ut plus half at square. Let's substitute the corresponding values. For P1, u is 30, t plus half, a is minus 10, t square equals distance covered by P2 is u is 10 in P2. So 10t plus half, a is again minus 10 because the object is going upwards. T square is t square plus 25. Okay. So this would be 30t minus 5t square equals 10t minus 5t square plus 25. So this and this cancels out. We have 20t equals 25. So t is 25 by 20, which is 1.25 seconds. Which means that when the two particles are at the same height, the time is 1.25. And you have to find the velocities of both the particles at this instant. So what we'll do is, for both the particles now, particle P1 and particle P2, we have quite a few parameters. For both of them, we know the respective u's. It's 30 for P1 and 10 for P2. Then we know the acceleration. both the particles are moving upwards initially. So A is going to be minus 10 in both the cases. Then now we also know the time at which we have to find the V, the velocities of both the particles. So time is 1.2 seconds, time is 1.25 seconds when both the particles are at the same height, and you have to find their respective final velocities at this instant. So which equation of motion should we use here? That gives us V from U, A, and T. There are 5 equations of motion that you must know. Can anybody tell me what they are? Let's write them down here.
V square is equals to U square plus 2A.
ठीक है, एक था v square equals u square plus 2as. Can we use this? No, because we don't have s. And
S is to UT plus half AT square.
ठीक है, there's no v here, so we're not using that. Plus we don't have the s.
Must V equals U plus 80.
V is equals to u plus 80. Yes, this one will be used. But let's write down the remaining equations as well. There's another one for s. There's another one for
S is equals to 1 y to U plus T
u plus v times t.
times T.
Okay. And lastly, it's vt minus half at squared. This one is not in the formula sheet. Remaining, all of them are. And we're using this one in this question. We did write all the equations of motion. Not Newton's law of motion. These are called, पता नहीं Newton's के ही होंगे, मुझे नहीं पता, but yeah, equations of motion मैंने लिखवाए थे the very first day of mechanics class. But अभी board पे लिखे हुए हैं, you can just note
वो
these.
तो फॉर्मूलाज थे। आई रिमेम्बर हमारे क्लास में लाइक
ये
सर ने वो भी
formula.
शायद लिखवाए थे, जो लाइक प्रॉपर लॉज हैं उसके।
नहीं, मैंने बस थर्ड लॉ करवाया था, जिस MA
ओके।
वाला जो है, ठीक है, ओके, अच्छा जी. So find V now in both the cases. So we're going to use this one. V is equals to U plus 80. For the first one, it's going to be V equals 30 plus A is minus 10 and T is 1.25. This gives us 17.5 meters per second. And then it's going to be V is equals to U T plus half A T square. Okay, this is equals to sorry, मैंने गलत कर दिया. V is equals to U plus 80. So this is wrong. V is equals to U is 10 plus A times 1.25, which is 2.5. Okay, that was part B, which was find the velocity when both particles are at the same height. Okay, done with that. Now let's look at the last part. The time for which, एक second, this should have been negative. ये negative आएगा. Can you guys confirm that we get a negative value over here? 10 plus minus 10 into 12.5. हाँ, negative 2.5 यार. अच्छा, now what does this negative sign imply? Negative क्यों आया है हमारी velocity? Velocity is a vector. It has a magnitude, which is the speed. So speed 2.5 meters per second है. But direction negative है. क्या मतलब? This means that it is traveling in an opposite direction to P1. So if this was going upwards, the particle P1 was going upward, this one is now going downwards, as indicated by the negative sign of the velocity. Okay, so this negative 2.5 is of significance. You need to know what this means. इसका मतलब है ये अगर negative 2.5 है तो ये opposite direction में चल रहा है. Particle P1 ऊपर जा रहा है अगर, तो इस वक्त particle P2 नीचे आ रहा है. So that means that the two particles are equal in height when the first particle goes up and it reaches its maximum height and then it's coming down. At this instant, both the heights of the particles are equal. जब P2 अपना पूरा चक्कर लगा के पीक करके वापस नीचे आ रहा था, उस वक्त उसकी हाइट P1 की हाइट के बराबर हुई. ठीक है, ऊपर जाते वक्त नहीं हुई. ऊपर जाते वक्त इन दोनों की स्पीड डिफरेंट है. सो फॉर सम रीजन P2 पहले अपनी मैक्सिमम पीक तक चला गया और फिर वो नीचे जब आ रहा था तब उसकी हाइट और P1 की हाइट बराबर हुई. इसी वजह से P2 की जो वेलोसिटी है वो नेगेटिव आ रही है, क्योंकि वो नीचे जा रहा है उस वक्त और P1 तो ऊपर ही जा रहा है. The time for which P1 is higher than P2 and is moving upwards. So the time for which P1 is higher than P2 and is moving upwards, that means they're asking for this time slot. इस region में time कितना है? Because in this region, P1 is moving upwards and it is higher than P2. So how do we find the time in this small chunk? What do we know about this chunk? We know the final velocity is going to be 0. That is what we know. We know the acceleration, which is going to be minus 10 since it's going upwards. And do we have anything else? Do we have u? No, we don't have u in the pink region. We have u at the bottom. Then we don't have s either, but we can find s by taking v is equals to 0, but I think that would make it harder. इसका कोई आसान तरीका होगा. Give me a second. Okay, let's find the time at which this particle reaches its maximum height. So I'm doing the working for part 3 here. So find the time at which P1 reaches its maximum height. Okay, so for that, we're going to use the same parameters. U is 0 at the, U is 30 at the bottom. Since it's going upwards, A is minus 10. And at its maximum height, V is 0. So find the time from 30 to 0. That's going to be V is equals to U plus AT again. 0 equals 30 minus 10t, so t is 3 seconds. So that means at 3 seconds, the particle P1 goes from the ground to the top. So this takes 3 seconds. Okay. Also, we know that the time at which the heights of both the particles was the same. This time was 1.25 seconds from here. Time at which both the heights were, both the particles were at the same height. That's going to be 1.25 seconds. Now subtract both the times, and that will give you the time for this region, which is the requirement of the question. So 3 minus 1.25 is 1.75 seconds. That's the answer for question 2. Take proper notes and reattempt this question. That will give you more clarity. Otherwise, I'm telling you which equation of motion to apply, what to do, and that would not get you far. You need to be able to solve a question on your own. So whenever you see a question or whenever you solve a question with me, that's not too straightforward like this question, always reattempt it. Preferably the same day या फिर next day तक at least. Okay. I'm going to copy the next question now. The diagram shows velocity time graph of motion of a small stone which falls vertically from rest at a point A above the surface of the liquid container. Okay, so there's a liquid container which has some liquid in it. Okay. Small stone which falls vertically from rest at a point A. Okay, so there's a point A. The stone is falling, that means it's going downwards. Show that with double arrows. And it starts from rest. What does that mean?
Initial velocity 0.
हाँ, इसका u 0. ओके, और क्या पता है हमें इस ऑब्जेक्ट का? ए पता है, क्या है?
Increasing,
सॉरी,
which
नीचे जा रहा है ना ऑब्जेक्ट, तो ए क्या होगा? जब ऑब्जेक्ट,
increase work.
हाँ, तो ए की क्या
तो-
वैल्यू होगी? ग्रेविटेशनल एक्सेलरेशन 10. जब रेजिस्टेंस के बगैर ना एक ऑब्जेक्ट ऊपर जा रहा होता है तो याद रखो -10 है एक्सेलरेशन, और जब नीचे आ रहा होता है तो 10 है. ठीक है. अच्छा, अब क्या कहा है? फ्रॉम रेस्ट at a point A above the surface of the liquid in a container, the downward velocity of the stone after leaving A is v. The stone hits the surface of the liquid with velocity 7 meters per second. Okay, so when it hits the surface, the velocity, let's call it v, is 7 meters per second because u was 0. So this is going to be 7 meters per second. When time is equals to 0.7 seconds. Okay, so it took 0.7 seconds to go from here to here. Okay. And the stone hits the surface of the liquid with velocity 7 when time is 0.7. It reaches the bottom of the container with velocity 5. So when it reaches the bottom, the velocity is 5 and the time taken for the entire journey is 1.2. So then the time from here to here would be 1.2 minus 0.7. So that would be 0.5 seconds. So from top to the surface of the water, it takes 0.7 seconds. And from the surface of the water to the bottom of the container, it takes a total of 1.2 seconds. So that means 0.5 seconds inside the container. Find the height of A above the surface of the liquid. So basically you need this distance. The height of point A above the surface of the liquid. How do we find the height, this pink height? You have U, you have A, you have T, you have V. So how do we find the height of this region, which is the distance covered in this region? इक्वेशन ऑफ मोशन बताओ कौन सी लगेगी जिससे एस आ जाए? देखो यू भी है, ए भी है, टी भी है, वी भी है, तो आपके पास 3 की बजाय 4 पैरामीटर्स हैं, तो काफी ज्यादा इक्वेशंस लग सकती हैं। कोई एक बताओ। एस फाइंड कर रहे हैं, द हाइट ऑफ particle A above the surface of the liquid.
Miss, v square is equals to u square plus 2as.
ठीक है, करके देखते हैं। 1A, so V square equals U square plus 2AS. So 7 square equals 0 square plus 2, 10. S is what we have to find. So 49 equals 20S. So S is 49 by 20. Let me check the answer. 2.45 is the answer. 49 divided by 20. Yes, 2.45. So S equals 2.45 meters. So the distance between A and the top surface of water is 2.45 meters. In part B, it's asking for the depth of the liquid inside the container. So now this length is required. What do we do? What's going to be the depth of the liquid? Now for this part, U is 7, the initial speed. The final speed is 5. Time is 0.5 seconds. Find the distance covered from top to bottom. कैसा आएगा distance?
Miss S equals VT minus half UT square.
VT minus half AT. A तो है ही नहीं.
मिस हम लोग हाफ u plus vt यूज करेंगे.
हाँ ठीक है. A क्यों नहीं है? A वाटर के अंदर ग्रेविटेशनल एक्सेलरेशन नहीं होती. वाटर के अंदर एक्सेलरेशन चेंज हो जाती है क्योंकि अब रेजिस्टेंस आ जाएगी. So same acceleration नहीं यूज कर सकते as the first part. So to find S, we'll do what Ryan said, half U plus V times T. So half 7 plus 5 times 0.5, which is 3 meters. So this distance is 3 meters. And earlier, what was the distance? 2.45. Okay, I'm just writing that in the figure because we might need it later. Okay, I'm clearing the figure and also sending you a new link.